Hello, my name is Ruzan Gishyan, and today's meeting is about recording and filming fundamentals. Let me first introduce myself and then continue with the course. I'm Ruzan. I have bachelor's and master's degree in journalism from Yerevan State University and my second master's degree from the Georgian Institute of Public Affairs, GIPA, and I am proud of my academic background. During my study years, I worked for various media organizations and for Yakir Media, TV company's news program. I also contributed to Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty's Armenian service for about 5 years as a journalist, video editor, producer, and announcer. Now I have been working for Chaikana Media for about 4 years. I'm Armenian media manager and handling texts and photos. From 2018, I took a new role at Brusov State University as an educator, and I'm teaching journalism, audio, and video production. And this short course covers the basic principles of recording and shooting, along with general patterns and techniques for working with sound and video cameras. Additionally, it provides theoretical knowledge about the artistic and psychological aspects of filming and editing. So let's start. Recording and filming, whether for personal use or professional projects, require some essential equipment and knowledge. So let's discuss it step by step. The first most important aspect is the location, meaning you need to decide whether you will be shooting outdoors or indoors. Depending on your goal, the shooting location may be different. It can be the home of the person being filmed or some other place. It can be a studio. Filming can be done outside. In the case of campus filming, that locations are campus, classrooms, auditoriums, or media centers. It's much more competent and correct if the filming is organized in a university studio where there is necessary equipment for filming. So, when I'm coming to my location, I'm looking around, looking for something aesthetic, something that looks pretty. I'm looking for leading lines. I'm looking for depth. I want my image to have some depth, meaning some lines and separation from the subject and the background. Here are some main rules and considerations for each of these elements. Leading lines are visual elements that guide the viewer's eye towards the subject or a specific point of the frame. They help create a sense of direction and draw attention to what's important. Here are some rules for leading lines in the interview. Positioning. Position the subject along or near the leading lines to create a natural flow towards them. For example, a road or hallway can lead to the interview. Diagonals. Diagonal lines often work well as leading lines because they add dynamics and energy to the composition. Avoid confusion. Ensure that the leading lines don't lead to distractions or unrelated elements in the frame. And depth. Creating depth in your interview shots adds visual interest and dimension to the video. Here is how to do it. You should think about foreground, middle ground, and background. Arrange elements in the frame to include foreground, middle ground, and background. This creates a sense of depth. Use of focus. Play with focus to emphasize the subject. You can use a shallow depth of field, for example, white aperture, to blur the background, making the subject to stand out. Layering. Place objects or people at varying distance from the camera to add layers and depth to the shot. And the background in an interview can either complement or distract from the subject. Next rule is clean and uncluttered. Keep the background simple and uncluttered to avoid distractions. A plain wall or a natural background can work well, and ensure that the background is relevant to the interview. It should not conflict with the subject's message, and use a shallow depth of field to blur the background if it's busy or distracting. This helps the subject to stand out. And of course, lighting. Pay attention to the lighting of the background. It should be well lit but not overpowering. Consistency. If you are shooting multiple interviews for the same project, try to keep the background consistent for a cohesive look. Remember that the rules can be depending on the style and purpose of your interview. For example, a formal corporate interview may require a different approach than a casual documentary style interview. Ultimately, the key is to use these rules as a guideline and adapt them to your specific context and creative vision. In summary, when shooting an interview, consider location, leading lines, depth, and background to create visually appealing and effective shots. Adapt these guidelines to your specific project style and goals. The next step is composition. Composition basically means the framing, includes the lighting and what the overall image is looking like in your camera. For example, while shooting an interview with the middle-sized shot, we want the subject to be on the left third, following the rule of thirds, meaning that if your subject is talking to the camera, like I'm talking to the camera now, it's okay to be on the center. But in this case, he or she speaks to you or to the journalist. It's important to have a lead or looking room in front of him or her. The second part of the rule of thirds is that we want his or her eyeline to be on the top third of the frame. Um, in case of close-up shot. Eyes are the main subject here because people are looking at eyes when someone is talking, but also mouth. So eyes and mouth are essentially on the lines. His or her right eye is going to be on the other third horizontally. This is conventional framing. Um, there are times to break these rules to convey different emotions, so you can allow your creativity to decide because those are just rules, and you can see lots of videos where these rules are broken. In summary, when it comes to composition, follow the rule of thirds for framing your subject and consider eye placement. When using multiple cameras, keep them around 30 degrees apart to ensure smoother transition during editing. Next step is understanding shot sizes. Let's watch a video and continue.
Choosing the right type of shot for your photo is where you get to decide how to frame what's most important and what you might want to highlight over other areas. Different types of shots use different camera angles and focus on different things. Let's take a look at a few and see how they each are different for framing and focusing the subject matter. Let's say you're hiking one day and come across something that causes you to say to yourself, "Oh, this place is so beautiful, I have to take a picture." If you want to capture a large part of the landscape or area, you're going to have to use what's called an extreme wide shot, which focuses on the environment rather than something smaller like a person. To change to different shots, you can either use a different focal length or use a different type of lens. Now let's learn about some of the different types of shots you can use. As we've seen with this shot, we're capturing a large area, so the subject is not the main focus of the picture. If we wanted to highlight or focus the person a little bit more, we could use what's called a long shot or wide shot. With this type of shot, the person is featured more prominently, but we're still showing large areas of the background. Now, if you wanted to focus on the person even more, you could use what's called a full shot. With this type of shot, you can see that the person is now more of the main focus of the image. This shot also frames the subject fully, which is where it gets its name from. Reducing the area of focus to just showing the head of a person to slightly above their knees is called a medium long shot. It was used consistently in cowboy movies, where it was necessary to see the subject and their weapon. The next tighter shot is the medium shot. Here, the framing is from the top of the head to the waist of the subject. This type of shot can be great for fashion photos or formal portraits, but be careful to not cut off the hands of the subject. By shrinking the view a little bit more, we now have a medium close-up. Here, we see how the background area is cropped out now, and the picture focuses almost entirely on the subject. This type of shot frames the head and chest of a subject, which is great for showing facial expressions and emotion. If you need to show specific facial gestures or just want to have a more intimate shot, you can use what's called a close-up shot. This type of shot allows you to really get close on specific parts of the person or subject. Finally, if you want to get even closer, focusing on even smaller areas of the subject, you can use an extreme close-up shot. As its name indicates, it allows you to focus on really small things, giving them more weight in the photo. These are straight-on types of shots, but there are also others that utilize different camera angles, which can add even more impact to your picture.
As you see, the size of the frames is very important. I would say it's a fundamental part of filming and then also of editing, but the camera angle matters too. When we point the camera up, down, or tilt it, what we show can change. Now let's watch the next video.
Different types of camera shots help communicate different things, like perspective, story, and emotion. There are two main ways that shots produce these effects. There are shots that focus mainly on the subject in a more straightforward manner, and then there are the shots that utilize the camera's angle to produce a different type of effect and feeling. Let's take a look. So here we see our subject in a regular straight shot. The camera is well balanced and we're using a medium shot for framing. We covered medium shots and other types in an earlier video. But what if we wanted to make the subject look somewhat smaller, maybe indicating their lack of power or that something might be wrong? For that, we might want to use a high angle, where we place the camera slightly above the subject and then tilt down pointing towards them. Now, if you want the opposite effect, making them look larger, more powerful, and imposing, you could just position the camera below the subject, looking upwards at them. Another interesting angle to try out is what's called an overhead shot, where the camera is positioned directly over the subject and shoots down towards the ground. This type of shot can create a sense of loneliness and a feeling of isolation. Another extreme camera angle is to shoot from below the subject. The camera is positioned directly below, pointing upwards, giving the subject a sense of importance or superiority. In this example, the person looks as if he might be stepping on the viewer from a position of power. Need an even more extreme and off-putting camera shot? Try the Dutch angle. This shot consists of rotating the camera to the side, making the horizon line more angled. With this shot, you can indicate that the subject might be unstable, unpredictable, or lost in fantasy. However, be careful when using this or other shots where you tilt the horizon line. Make sure it feels intentional and not like an operator's error. Remember, there are composition rules for photographs featuring horizons. We covered them in a previous video. Another thing to try is to combine different angles with different shots in order to find exactly what you need. For example, this photo uses an extreme close-up combined with a low angle to make a pretty interesting shot. So now that you know the different types of shots and angles you can use, you should feel confident knowing that you'll be able to find that right shot for every situation.
So what we can emphasize is that shot sizes refer to the framing and composition of your camera shots, and they play a crucial role in conveying emotions, emphasizing details, and telling your story effectively. Next step is lighting. Let's simplify the difference between artificial and natural light during shooting. Natural light comes from the sun or outdoor light and change through the day due to sunlight angles and weather conditions. It offers a soft, diffused quality in overcast conditions, but it's important to remember that natural light requires careful timing and adaptation to changing conditions. And though it's free, but it's less controllable. Artificial light is generated using artificial lighting sources like lamps, studio lights, and LED panels. It provides consistent and controllable lighting conditions and offers various color temperatures from warm to cool, depending on the lighting source. Artificial light is suitable for indoors shooting, controlled environments, and low light conditions, but requires lighting equipment, of course, and setup. It's commonly used for studio setups, interviews, and controlled cinematic lighting. The choice between them depends on the desired look, shooting location, of course, and control needed for a particular sense or project. For the artificial light, the main rule is that the bigger is the light source, the softer light you will have. It will be a nice transition between light and shadow. It gonna be more flattering or on the features on the human face, not showing wrinkles as much as soft light are absolutely necessary for the key lights. So the main light is the key light. The main way to position a key light is to position the light to the side and a little above, a little high. If you put it closer, the face will become more dramatic. We call it split lighting when we have just one side of the face and nothing on the other side. More common is when we call it Rembrandt lighting. It's like we have a nice little corner of light showing up right here. Uh, Loop lighting is when you put the light in a way we see a little shadow by the nose. Shadow is connecting and making a triangle. We still have the shadow along the side, but it's not as dramatic. Another light that we need to pay attention to is backlight, or we can call it hair light. It can be natural lighting coming from the window, or we can block out natural light and add artificial light from behind. If you want to be independent of natural lighting, which is variable, then it's better to do just that. It needs to be opposite to your key light, a little bit higher, so it catches hair and the back. Doing light is about your creativity and it's something like painting. So there are no strict rules and restrictions. In case of television programs or professional studios, professional shooting, a separate specialist always deals with the issue of lighting. Next and very important step is audio. Ideally, we have two ways of capturing the audio, external and shotgun microphones. The distance from the subject is very important. The good distance for the external one is from 6 to 14 inches. It's important that the mic doesn't appear in the frame or that its glare doesn't appear. The sound quality should be checked all the time with the help of headphones. This is very important in order to avoid problems in the future. Um, mm, because if you have checked at the beginning, you should not hope that everything will be fine. Um, Make sure that the volume is between -18 and -6. Acoustics is important for the right sound, and therefore to avoid reverb, you need to take care of the acoustics. The voice sometimes can be much more important than the image because it carries the story. Lens choice. Lens choice is a critical aspect of videography and can significantly impact the look and feel of your shots. Here is a simplified breakdown of lens choices for different shooting styles. Wide angle lens from 14 to 35 millimeters. These lenses are excellent for capturing expensive scenes and creating a sense of space. Common use cases are like landscape shots, architectural photography and videography, wide establishing shots. In this case, depth of field tends to be deeper, keeping more of the frame in focus. Standard or normal lens from 35 millimeters to 85 millimeters. These lenses closely resemble what the human eye sees, making them versatile for various styles. Common use cases are general purpose filmmaking, portraits, and interviews. Telephoto lens, 85 millimeter and above. These lenses are excellent for compressing scenes, isolating subjects, and capturing distant objects. Common use cases can be wildlife photography, sport events, and cinematic close ups with background compression. Remember that the choice of lens should align with your creativity vision and specific requirements of your project. Different lenses can convey different moods and storytelling elements. Medium shot is between 35 to 50 millimeters. For tie or close-up shots, 50 up to 70 millimeters is good. The facial features look most flattering between 70 and 100 millimeters. Now let's talk about zoom, panorama, movement, and tripods and try to escape some mistakes. Zoom. Correct use of zoom. Use zoom sparingly and purposefully zoom in for close-up when necessary, but avoid excessive zooming, which can lead to shaky and pixelated footage. Incorrect use is rapid or frequent zooming, can be disorientating and distract viewers. Overusing digital zoom can result in a loss of image quality. Panorama. Pan slowly and smoothly to capture wide shots or scene views. Use a tripod or stabilizer for steady panning. Incorrect use, jerky or fast panning can be unsettling for viewers. Avoid sudden movements that disrupt the flow of your video. Movement. Plan camera movements deliberately to enhance storytelling. Use techniques like tracking shots or dolly movements for cinematic effects. Incorrect use, extensive camera movement or shaky footage can be distracting. Unplanned movements may confuse viewers and um detract from your message. Tripods. Use a tripod when possible to stabilize your shots. Adjust the tripod height and level to ensure a steady and balanced frame. Incorrect use. Neglecting the use of tripod can lead to shaky, unprofessional footage. A poorly adjusted tripod can result in crooked or off-level shots. With all this, you can have problems during editing if you didn't follow the 180-degree rule when shooting. And what is this? Let's watch a video.
Have you ever finished a video project only to find that your edit is just off?
No, fuck you!
The cuts don't flow together? The edit is disorienting? Chances are you may have broken one of the oldest rules in production, the 180-degree rule. The 180-degree rule refers to an imaginary straight line you draw between two subjects in a scene. Basically, you want to keep all of your camera setups on the same side of that line. Otherwise, you've crossed the line. In this video, we're going to show you examples of how to follow the 180-degree rule, how to break it, and how to bend it. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe and don't forget to click the bell to get looped in on future videos.
There you go.
By following the 180-degree rule, you establish orientation and screen direction. This is a scene from Heat.
I do what I do best. I take scores. You do what you do best, trying to stop guys like me.
The 180-degree line runs across the table through Pacino to De Niro. Look at their eyes. Pacino looks camera right. De Niro looks camera left. You do this so that the viewer can attain a sense of orientation during the scene. It looks like they're looking at each other.
Oh, that's an interesting point.
But what happens when you have more than two people in the scene? How would you follow the 180-degree rule? It helps to think of it like a stage play. Just keep your camera in the seats, and you'll be okay.
Wow.
But what happens if you break the line? If following the rule achieves tranquility, breaking the rule achieves chaos. In this scene from 25th Hour, Ed Norton's character is surprised by a DEA inspection.
We've got a warrant to search your apartment.
This situation is chaotic, and Spike Lee visualizes it by breaking the 180-degree rule. See how Ed Norton is looking camera left, and the detective is also looking camera left. Here is a scene from Paper Moon. The line is established as the waitress walks away. When we cut to our first single, Tatum O'Neal looks camera left. Ryan O'Neal looks camera right.
I'll get you some relish.
When Ryan O'Neal reaches across the table, we cut across the line. We are now on the other side of the line. In doing so, the director gradually changes the tone and power relationship.
I want my money. You took my $200.
Will you quiet down? You hear?
I want my $200.
Hold on.
Now you understand how to follow the rule. You know how to break the rule. Now let's show you how to bend it. So how do you bend the 180-degree rule? One way to do this is through a neutral shot. This is when you cut away to a shot that will reset the line. Here you can see Goebbels' eye line is headed from left to right. When we switch behind Shoshana, this is a shot directly on top of the line. His eye line has switched right to left. Another clever way to bend the rule is with camera movement. In this scene from Heat, De Niro's being caught off guard by an attractive woman.
What are you reading?
Is she an undercover cop? Maybe FBI? Or even an assassin?
Lady, why are you so interested in what I read or what I do?
But once he's convinced she's a bookstore employee, we see that transformation play out visually.
I didn't mean to be rude. I didn't recognize you.
The camera crosses the line.
My name's Neil.
We have moved from the backs of our characters to the front, away from danger and suspicion to a place of openness. Keep in mind, the 180-degree rule is like any other rule in the world. It's there to protect you. But breaking it safely can give you some unique results. Now you understand the 180-degree rule, how to follow it, how to break it, and everything in between. Use Studio Binder's shot list features to plan your line breaks more deliberately. Storyboarding helps to visualize the line breaks too. We've covered breaking the line. In our next video, we cover breaking the fourth wall.
Oh, hello.
The do's and the don'ts. If you like this video, let us know. Subscribe and click the bell for a steady digest of filmmaking techniques to keep you inspired. And until next time, remember, you have to know the rules before you can break them.
It's time to speak about editing. And let me open it and share my screen. According to professional definition, editing is the process of putting a film together, the selection and arrangement of shots and scenes. Editing is like putting a puzzle together. It's about choosing and arranging pieces to create a complete picture. Editing can make time and space seem shorter or longer, highlighting specific things and show patterns in the story. It also affects how the audience feels. Quick cuts make things tense, while longer shots create drama. Editing a simple video can be straightforward, especially with user-friendly video editing software. First step is choose video editing software. Start by selecting video editing software. There are many options available, ranging from free to paid software. Some popular choices include iMovie for Mac, Windows Movie Maker for Windows, Adobe Premiere Rush, and DaVinci Resolve, both available on multiple platforms. Today we will work with Adobe Premiere Pro. First thing, import your video clips. Launch the chosen video editing software and create a new project. Then import your video clips into the software. This can often be done by clicking an import or import media button. Arrange clips on the timeline. Drag and drop your video clips onto the timeline in the order you want them to appear in your final video. Most video editing software displays a timeline at the bottom where you can arrange your clips. Trim and cut clips. Trim or cut your video clips to remove any unwanted portions. This can be done by selecting a clip on the timeline and using tools like split or cut to remove unnecessary sections. Add transitions. This one is optional. If desired, add transitions between your clips to make your video flow smoothly. Common transitions include fades, dissolves, and wipes. Most video editing software provides a library of transitions to choose from. Add music and sound. This one is also optional. If you want to include music or sound effects, import your audio files and place them on a separate audio track in the timeline. Adjust the volume as needed. Add text and titles. This one is also optional. If you wish to add text or titles to your video, look for a tool or option in your editing software to create and customize text overlays. You can use these for introduction, subtitles, or captions, especially when you are doing translation. Apply effects and filters. This one is also optional. Some video editing software offers a variety of effects and filters to enhance your footage. Experiment with color correction, brightness, contrast, and other adjustments as needed. Preview and adjust. Play your edited video from the beginning to see how it looks. Make any necessary adjustments to timing, transitions, or effects to achieve the desired result. And after all, export your video. Once you are satisfied with your video, choose the export or render option in your software. Select the desired video settings such as resolution and format. Then export the video to save it as a file on your computer. Now, when you are done, you can share your edited video on social media, upload it to video sharing platforms, or use it for your intended purpose. Remember that practice makes perfect, so don't be discouraged if your first attempts at video editing aren't flawless. Over time, you will become more proficient in creating and editing videos. Now, let's talk about the artistic approach of editing. Let's watch a world known filmmaker Hitchcock's explanation about cutting and editing.
We call it cutting. It isn't exactly that. Cutting implies severing something. It really should be called assembly. Mosaic is assembling something to create a whole. Montage means the assembly of pieces of film, which, moved in rapid succession before the eye, create an idea. Of course, the most elementary form is the juxtaposition of imagery in various sizes. You know, a lot of people think that cutting is, or we'll say montage or assembly, is taking a man from one place to another and jumping into a close-up of him, which Griffith invented, it's true. But to me, it goes much deeper. And as I say, the picture Psycho contained quite an amount of cinematic approach to this, to its basic content. In the first place, we had in it the murder of a woman in a shower, of a nude woman. Now, as you know, you could not take the camera and just show a nude woman being stabbed to death. It had to be done impressionistically. So it was done with little pieces of film. The head, the feet, the hand, the parts of the torso.
Shadow on the curtain.
Everything, you see, was used. The shower itself. I think in that scene there were 78 pieces of film in about 45 seconds. Now, that's one kind. Now we'll take another kind, which I would prefer to call, say, the orchestration. Loud notes, soft notes, and so forth. The second murder in Psycho was treated quite differently. It showed a detective coming up the stairs, the audience already aware that a monster was around. So they were apprehensive for him, but they didn't know when it was going to happen. So I have this man mounting the stairs in what we would call a medium shot, a waist shot. And he gets to the top of the stairs. Then I take the camera and put it very, very high, way, way high, above the ceiling almost, as though we're looking down on the whole thing. And a little figure runs out with a raised knife. And the hand goes up with the knife into the air and starts to bring it down. Now remember, these are two tiny figures. Then the next cut is a big head of the man as the knife goes across his face. Now, this is size of image put together to create shock. In other words, if it were music, it would be tremolos on the violin and suddenly a brass instrument, which is the big close-up. And from that he fell and went back. So there's an illustration of using the size of the image to create shock, or whatever you will. Now the third way is what one might call pure cinematics, the assembly of film, and how it can be changed to create a different idea. Now we have a close-up. Let me show what he sees. Let's assume he saw a woman holding a baby in her arms. Now we cut back to his reaction to what he sees, and he smiles. Now what is he as a character? He's a kindly man. He's sympathetic. Now, let's take the middle piece of film away, the woman with the child, but leave his two pieces of film as they were. Now we'll put in a piece of film of a girl in a bikini. He looks, girl in a bikini, he smiles. What is he now? The dirty old man. He's no longer the benign gentleman who loves babies. That's the difference. That's what film can do for you.
Or you for it, as it were.
So, Hitchcock believed that editing is a critical tool for creating suspense and engaging the audience. He was a master of suspense, and much of his success can be attributed to his innovative editing techniques. But let's return to simple editing. Simple editing involves cutting and pasting the frames together. In order to avoid mistakes, it's important that the frames of different sizes alternate with each other. This is important for avoiding jump cuts. And what is jump cut? Let's look at an example. So, a jump cut is when two shots in a video look almost the same, and it creates a sudden and noticeable jump or skip in the action, which can be distracting. It's usually something video editors try to avoid, but sometimes it's used on purpose for a specific artistic effect. It occurs when two sequential shots of the same subject are taken from similar angles or perspective, and there is minimal change in the subject's position or appearance between the two shots. This results in jarring and discontinuous visual effect. Jump cuts are often considered undesirable in traditional filmmaking because they can disrupt the viewer's immersion in the story and the flow of the narrative. They can make it appear as if a sudden jump in time or space has occurred within the same shot, which can be confusing and distracting. Overall, a jump cut is a noticeable editing error in the context of traditional filmmaking, but it can be employed deliberately for artistic or stylistic effect when desired. Let's watch an example.
Et ta Ford, tu ne l'as plus?
Elle est au garage. Allez, quoi, je reste avec toi.
De toute façon, j'ai mal à la tête.
On ne sera pas ensemble, mais je voudrais rester à côté de toi.
Non, ce n'est pas ça, Michel. Pourquoi vous êtes triste?
Parce que je suis triste.
C'est idiot. Pourquoi tu es triste? C'est mieux quand je dis vous ou tu.
Pareil. Je peux pas me passer de toi.
Tu peux très bien.
Oui, mais je veux pas. Regarde une Talbot. Elle est belle, 2,5 litres.
Tu es un garçon.
Quoi?
Je ne sais pas.
Patricia, regarde-moi. C'est interdit d'aller voir ce type. Hélas, hélas, hélas. J'aime une fille qui a une très jolie nuque, de très jolis seins, une très jolie voix, de très jolis poignets, un très joli front, de très jolis genoux. Mais qui est lâche.
C'est là, stop.
Attends, je vais me garer, quoi.
I will leave several links that can be helpful for shooting and editing. But let's remember what we have talked about during all this meeting and have a list of common mistakes while shooting can impact the quality of your video or film. To avoid common mistakes, you need practice and attention to detail, planning ahead, getting ready in advance, and double checking everything can make your shooting go more smoothly and increase your chance of success. Good luck with shooting and editing, and bye.